Ladies and gentlemen, here we go again in 1962 at the Old Timers Picnic at Lakeside Park. Incidentally, this is the first picnic we've held in 3 years, so we've got a long lag to make up in personal interviews. In 1955, we started a system of tape recordings, recording the voices of the old pioneers, hoping to accumulate a library and a perpetual record of the voices of these people. A goodly number of those whom we have already interviewed have passed to the great beyond. That's not a tremble in my voice, it's in my throat. The first guest we have this afternoon is Mrs. Olga Wright, formerly Olga McKay. Where were you born, Mrs. Wright?
I was born in Woodstock, Ontario. And I lived there till 1909. Came out west. Came to Nelson in 1909.
Came to Nelson in 1909.
Yeah, 1909.
You were married in Nelson?
I was married in Nelson in 1912.
1912. Same year as myself.
Errol Wright.
Yes.
Errol Wright, yes.
Yes, to Errol Wright. And lived here, I guess, about, well, until we went to the coast in, I think it was 16 rather.
And you came back here some years ago?
I came back for a little while, but we came back and stayed for 16 years from 1932 until we left for the coast to make our home in 1947.
Mm-hmm. That's the year of our Jubilee here.
Yes.
Were you here for that?
Yes, I was, and I enjoyed it very, very much. We had a wonderful time.
So did I. I enjoyed it myself.
Yeah, I was in the parade and everything. It was just marvelous.
Have you any family?
I have one son, Jack Wright, he lives at Fruitvale, BC now. Fruitvale.
Mm-hmm.
And he has 2 children,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in business there, up there in Fruitvale now.
Well, I can remember Fruitvale just a few years ago, and I was living down in Salmo myself. It was just a wide place in the road then.
Yeah.
It's quite a community there now.
Yes, it's quite a little city.
And it's going right ahead all the time.
Yes,
As a matter of fact, from there into trail is just like one long street.
Yes,
It's settled on
really
both sides,
very nice.
all the way in.
Mm-hmm. Well,
What did your father do, Olga?
my father was a lawyer, and he practiced law in Ontario for 25 years, but he came out here and took his examination and practiced here for a couple of years
Yes.
in Nelson. And then he became ill, and that was it. He died in 1914. And the time of the Chocamaika. You remember when the Chocamaika was on?
Very much.
He died then. And
Well, then Errol came from an old-time family, too.
oh yes,
Oh, yes.
his family, they hailed from the east, from Winnipeg really, but Dad was in a mining business in the west here, you know. And then of course they were in the Wright Investment Company here for a number of years.
He was in Ainsworth before.
I beg your pardon?
He was in Ainsworth, in business in Ainsworth.
No, Caslow.
Oh, Caslow.
Caslow.
Oh.
Hmm. Yeah.
How many brothers did Earl have? When they
One.
came? Eh?
He's one. Bert Wright of H.G. Wright of Vancouver, and he's still living.
Uh-huh. Must be quite an elderly
He's
gentleman.
79.
79. He got me a beat about 4 years.
Yes, he has, eh?
Well, Errol's father was G.B. Wright, was it?
No, A.W.
A.W. Wright.
A.W. Wright, yes. Mm-hmm. When the
Well, thank
Wright,
you, Mrs. Wright, very, very much.
I'm
for
very happy
giving
to
us
be
this
able to
chance
record
your
this.
voice. And we hope you'll be back up here for our picnic next year.
Thank you very, very
And
much.
if
I
you're
appreciate
around
it.
in the next 50 years, we'll play this record over for you.
Oh dear, that would be something.
Oh, well,
Okay, thank
where
you.
we can live in hopes.
Oh, you bet.
The next old-timer I'm going to interview is Mrs.
Mrs. Norman D.
Or
MacKay.
Mrs. Norman D. MacKay of Cranbrook. Where were you born, Mrs. MacKay?
In London, England.
In London,
London, England.
When did you come to Canada?
In 1906.
1906. You came directly to Nelson?
Yes, I did. On the boat. The big steamer.
Oh, you came down the lake?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's the only way you could get in
Yes,
then,
that's
unless
the
you
only
flew,
way.
and there was no plane.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of a Hobson's
That's
choice,
right.
wasn't it?
That's right. And then we went away up on the top of the mountain to live
Where was
on
that?
Cemetery Road.
Cemetery Road. Oh, that's quite in town now.
Yes, it's quite a difference.
Well extended beyond that.
Yeah.
How long did you live here, Mrs. MacKay?
Well, I lived here till 1918, and then I got
1918.
married, and then I was away for a little while, and I came back here in 1927,
27.
and I stayed here
You've lived here since.
pretty well, you know, back and forth. I'm over in Cranbrook now.
Well, that's very interesting, and we're awfully glad to.
Your parents, tell us about your parents.
Well, they leased the lunch counter from the CPR for a long time, and then my mother bought it, took it over, and then she ran it. We had it approximately 25 years.
Norman was an engineer.
He was a conductor on the CPR.
When did he die?
In 1944. Yeah.
Oh, I remember him quite well.
Yes, you remember. We always lived.
He left his dog with my brother.
Yeah.
When he went away.
That's my dog. Yeah,
And
that's our
the
dog.
old dog died there at home.
Yeah.
I used to get quite a kick out of him at the time. He had one particular place to lay that was right in the center of the floor, leading from the front door to the kitchen.
Yeah.
And if you went in there, you had to walk around him, rusty.
Yeah, he was a great old dog.
He used to know all the soft touches on the street.
Oh,
He'd
he
go along
sure
in the
did.
morning, go out and he'd
Sure did.
panhandle every house on
Yeah.
nearly 2 or 3 blocks.
He was
He
cute,
was always very
Rusty.
well fed.
Rusty.
Rusty, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had 2 boys, you know, Ross, Bob MacKay and Morris MacKay, and they're both in Cranbrook in business. We're adjusters over there, insurance adjusters.
Well, Cranbrook is,
Oh, well, I will, Ross.
Cranbrook is going ahead
Yo, it's ever going.
by leaps and bounds.
Busy, busy, busy.
I thought it was going to die not long ago.
Oh, no.
I had a girl in Cranbrook in the early days, believe it or not.
Well, I never lived there before, and I went over there from Nelson here. I went over in 51, and I've been there ever since. We like it.
It's funny now, after all these years, knowing your husband as I have known him, before he died, I didn't really know you.
Well, these glasses are deceiving, too, you know. I think a lot of these
This has been a great pleasure to me as
Yeah.
an acquaintance.
well,
And thanks very much for recording your voice for us. And like I told the lady that preceded you, if you come back here in 50 years, we'll play it over for you cheerfully. Now here we go again, folks. The person I'm going to interview at this time is my old friend Bill Bennett of Trail. Bill was a long-time resident of Nelson, known to everybody. He was in the butcher business. Matter of fact, I think his right hand is slightly deformed from weighing it along with the meat all those years. However, Bill's getting a laugh out of it, so I guess there's no harm done.
Put more in his hands in it. And he's in the wholesale business.
Put my thumb on the scale, but increase the weight.
When did you first come to the Kootenays?
Yeah, in the winter of 1967
1967. You were born where?
in London, England.
London, England, right out of the Big Smoke, huh?
Yeah,
Well, that is one good move you made early in life.
January 82.
That's where you were born.
Yeah, yeah.
You got me beat 4 years. Why?
Is that
you
right?
were getting wrong.
Wow.
I was born in 86.
Is that so?
Well, when you came here first, who did you work for?
I come out for the CPR.
For the CPR?
Yeah, they give us a rotten deal.
Oh, well, they do that with everybody. That's
Yeah,
it.
well, I tell you, when we come out here, we figured promotion was slow over there, and we thought we had a better chance. We come out here. They said they had new roads, new locomotives, and no crews. We come out here, there was a strike coming up, and we were strike breakers. Well, the Brotherhood fixed that.
Yeah.
So then I jumped from that to the old Yale Lumber Company.
Yeah.
Got to be setter and did a little sawing for them.
Who was the...
Sawyer was old Bob McGregor.
Bob McGregor.
Yes.
Jim McGregor was the
No,
first.
Bob McGregor.
Bob McGregor.
Yeah.
I thought his name was Jim. I knew
No.
him well.
Horswell married his daughter.
Yes, I went
Yeah.
to school with her
Yeah,
when she was Pearl McGregor.
yeah. And Sam Thorpe was the filer, and
Yeah.
Jack Lemon was the foreman.
Yes, I remember the
Yeah.
outfit now.
That's right. And then I jumped from there to Swift and run the plant for a couple of years.
Yeah. Swift Canadian.
Swift Canadian.
Successors to the J.Y. Griffin Company.
That's right.
Who
yeah.
erected the original plant.
That's it. And then from there I went to Burns Company. And I was with them for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I got another raw deal. No pension when they closed up.
Oh, they have a habit of doing that. They were very good at that. That was after Pat Burns had sold out.
Yeah, after he died.
Yeah, after he died.
Oh, yeah.
His successors treated all the employees the same way.
Do you know that I had the job when Smiley and Weir went into that block? They
Yeah.
wanted half the basement, and all Pat's correspondence was down there.
Yeah.
And I had the job burning that correspondence.
Mhm.
And I looked over a lot of it, and I couldn't read it. I couldn't read his writing.
Mm-hmm.
But I really feel that I should have saved some of it. I think there was a lot of history of the early Kootenays in there that was
certainly was.
relevant to that time.
No doubt about it.
And you see, they had the contract building the Kettle Valley up from Castlegar,
Yeah.
and had their old camp over there at Brooklyn on the
Yes,
Arrow Lakes.
Yes.
And old Bill Farino,
Yeah.
he was slaughtering for him.
Yes.
Well,
He
Blake
started-
Wilson and Pat used to go up the lakes and scouting around for cattle. Well, they were stuck for meat, and they found a rancher up there at 43 head, and they wanted to buy a few of them. And the old fella and the rancher said, no, he says, you don't get no part of them. He says, if you want to buy the works as they are, okay. So they come away without their meat. They went back to the camp, and Bill Farino was there, and Bill said to Bill, got any money on you, Bill? And he said, yeah, a little. He says, how much you want? $50? He said, $50 nothing. He said, how much you got? He says, I don't know. He said, let's look at it. He had a big, wide body belt on, and every dollar bill he got, he slapped him on his belly, you see. And they were all stuck together. It took him 3 days to unstick them, and there was $1,500 in there. They went back up and bought the cattle. And if old Bill had had any brains at that time, he would have been on the ground floor along with Pat and Blake Wilson. He might have been a millionaire before he died.
Yeah.
But that was he couldn't help it, you know. It just worked out that way. He said he'd give it to him back $50 at a time. He said it didn't do him any good. He went and blew it all in.
Burns could hardly write.
He couldn't write his own name.
No.
And at that time, he was running around there with the back of his pants in brags. He couldn't buy himself a pair of pants. Well, then they had the contract for the Slocan Valley. That's when Blake started in with them, you see, because Joe Wilson, he was part of the old Wilson and Purdue butcher shop there, and Burns bought him out.
Drove cattle in.
Yeah, he got drowned on the Kootenay Lake. He was bringing a barge load of cattle down, and it got rough. And he went back on the barge to try and quieten them down, and the barge upset, and they were all drowned. And then Blake, you see, he came out from the east and took over his interest, and that's how Blake got in. He was a millionaire before he threw. But all the old timers that built that business for him, why, they got nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Boxcar letters.
And you know, when they were building that road from Calgary up to Banff, they had a bunch of Indians working for them. And they run out of beef, and they had the old standby. They had cheese for breakfast, and there was cheese for lunch, and there was cheese for supper at night. And the old Indian chief come down next morning and looked at the breakfast table, and cheese for breakfast again, and he slapped himself on the rump, and he says, Popo's no savvy. His bowels wouldn't move.
Needed the variety. Well, you tell us your story.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's more than a pleasure to come back to Nelson and visit with a few old-timers that are left. And the list is getting smaller every year. I spent more than half my life here. I was married here in the old Methodist church. My children was born here.
I remember seeing your records up in the Methodist Church.
You did.
Yes.
They were raised and educated here, and like the poet said, it takes a lot of living in a place to call it home. A lot of sun and shadow, and sometimes you have to roam before you really appreciate the things you've left behind, and hungering for them sometime and always on your mind. I landed in Canada in the fall of 1906 and arrived in Nelson in February 1907. Stayed with Old Man Kerr in the Occidental Hotel. I was one of 150 that got a raw deal from the CPR. They said they had a lot of new roads and locomotives, no crews. Promotion was slow in the British Isles, so we took a chance. Only to find out that they wanted us for strikebreakers. The only thing we got out of it was a free ride with meals thrown in and no jobs. We were dumped St. John, there to Macadam Junction, Montreal, Winnipeg, Revelstoke, Nelson, and then up to He-Holt and back to Nelson. I worked in the old smelter here for a short time, almost got killed there, and I joined the old Yale Lumber Company and got to be setter and sawyer. I got tired of that. I went to Swift for 2 years and then to Burns & Company, where I stayed for 35 years, where I got another raw deal, no pension. Nelson in 1907, Baker Street had a dirt road. Sidewalks were about 2 feet above the road, which was used for horse racing. And on July the 1st, the fire teams from the district towns had their contest with their reel. They used to run from the Daily News building to where the Palm Dairy building is now. Turn the water on, and after connecting the hose. On July the 1st, all roads led to Nelson. Keen interest was taken in Caledonian sports, as well as rock drilling, log chopping, log rolling, launch racing, scull racing at night. All launches were decorated with Chinese lanterns, and the local church choirs put on their stuff, which sounded very good on the water. In 1914, the old steamer Nelson was decorated, and at night a mock battle was fought with rockets, and the steamer was burnt. Every year, the Indians from the reservation at Creston came down and put on a colorful show. As I look back over the years, I realize that I have lived through a wonderful time. I saw the birth of electric light, the use of the telephone, the automobile. I was born in London in '82. 3 years later, Jack the Ripper was operating. Everybody was scared to death. My mother took me out to her home on the farm, where I spent a lot of my younger days. My old granddad used to love to tease me. He was always going to find me a girl with a crinoline. I didn't know what a crinoline was. It was a wooden frame the ladies used to wear around their waists to make their skirts flare out. And when I was 8 or 9 years of age, I was there for my holidays, and one wet, stormy day I was confined to the old farmhouse, and I hunted around for something to read. I found an old book which had a list of words and their meaning in the back of the book. It may have been the first attempt at a dictionary. I looked at this word crinoline. What do you suppose it said? Well, a crinoline was a fence around a gentleman's playground. The original meaning of the word was the low metal fence that was put around the lawn to keep the balls from going out of bounds when they played croquet. We left London when I was 5 years old, and I can well remember my father's oldest brother, a Crimean war veteran, with his wooden leg, packing me on his back from Westbourne Park down to Paddington Station. He lost his leg at Balaclava in the charge of the Light Brigade. And when the reports reached London that the wounded soldiers had to lay on the frozen ground with no blankets or dressings, one of our noblest women, born in Italy of British parents, begged the British government to let her organize a body of women to go out there and see what they could do to help. They didn't know anything about nursing, but they could learn as they went along. In 6 months, they reduced the mortality rate from 50% to 2%. That lady was the Lady of the Lamp, Florence Nightingale. One thing I am proud of is that I knew quite a few of the old pioneers. Fred Jarvis, who came to Canada in the year I was born, 1882, when the main streets of Toronto was dirt roads and lined with hitching posts for horses. When he came to the Kootenays a few years later, he and his partner ran a rowboat ferry from Nelson to Ryandell, $3 a trip. They used the wind when they could, but most of the time it was manpower. He diamond drilled for Monty Davis at the Silver King mine. Monty's wife created a sensation on Baker Street one day by being the first woman to appear in bloomers in public. And old Tetchworth, who was working for the old Bell Trading Company at the time, almost broke his neck rushing out to take a good look at her.
You didn't throw any fruit at her, did you?
Another real old-timer was Gus Matthews. He personally knew Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane, the James boys, Bill Miner, that were notorious at that time. Often when playing solo with Harry Houston and Dave Maloney and myself, a chance remark, the cards would be tabled and forgotten. We would drift back into the past with all its glamour and adventure into the world of August Hines, Marcus Daly, and his partners, and the fight for control of the mine at Stinking Gulch, which is Butte today. The wages the wages were never paid in cash, but the amount you earned was credited to your account at the local commissary. It wasn't safe to have money laying around in them days. There was no banks. One man was, when supplies ran low, loaded up at Salt Lake City and Helena and sold out for $14,000. On his way back, he was held up and murdered. The vigilante caught up with them at Helena, and the ringleader was the local sheriff from Butte. They didn't wait for a judge and jury. They strung him up on the nearest trees. Fred Jarvis was another of the old solo gang. Coley Jarvis, I beg your pardon. The old solo gang. He was a veteran of the Northwest Rebellion. It's too bad he didn't get a write-up. Old Bill Ferrino was another. He was herding cattle for Pat Burns up among the Indians. They called him Skookum Bill. And they almost took him into the tribe. He had a native girl for a wife.
Certainly was Skookum.
Skookum Bill, he was Skookum. Later he slaughtered for Pat when they were building the railroad from Calgary to Banff. That's just that story I told you about that. I better stop her now.
Well, thanks, Mr. Bennett. You notice I called you Mr. this time.
Yeah.
That is a very, I may say, enlightening story you give us. This is the first gentleman that I've interviewed in a course of 5 annual events of this kind who came with prepared notes. I didn't even know he could write, as a matter of fact, and he can read it himself, so he must be well educated. However, Bill, forgive me for all this, all these ribald comments. I've known him a long time, and I hope to know him a long time yet.
Yeah, I knew your dad when he was in business on Baker Street, where the old unemployment insurance is now.
The Silver King.
And I knew all your brothers.
Yeah.
And what are you? You're the last of
I'm the last
of the tribe.
I'm the last of the Mohegans.
You're the last of the Mohegans.
Yeah.
Well,
we came here 12 strong, and I'm the last.
We are both getting on now in years, and let's make a pact. 100 or bust.
100 or bust. It's 50-50. I'll go with you on that. And thanks for helping us out, Bill.
Yeah.
And like I told your predecessors in this tape recording this afternoon, you come back in 50 years from now and we'll play this over for you.
Good. That's a deal.
That's a deal. Okay, that's a bargain, Bill.
Well, thanks very much, Bill.
Okay, Rod.
I don't forget that I used to buy meat from you in P. Burns when I was in the grocery business.
You know, Rube, I remember when Ross started to learn to play the trombone and all the birds left the country.
Well, I don't blame them.
Time we closed off.
No, I get home every weekend.
Well, here we go again, folks. The party I'm going to interview at this time is the one and only John J. Boyd, former bookbinder, photographer, and general factotum for the Daily News. You were superannuated from there when, John?
About 3 years ago, last May.
You and Charlie Pearson retired at the same time, did you not?
Well, Charlie had been off and on more or less before that due to ill health, but I'm still healthy, but they laid me off just the same.
Oh yes, when you get to that age they pull the pin on you. The government done that to me quite a number of years
So
back.
much money, why that's it.
Well, I haven't missed a meal before or
Where
since.
were you born, Mr. Boyd?
Huh?
Where were you born?
I was born in Ottawa in 1888.
Uh-huh. Oh, you're only a child yet. I was born in 86.
Well, I came
However,
here.
you have come from a very good place. My dad was born in Ottawa when it was Bytown, before they changed the name. You came to Nelson when?
In 1919.
In 1919. You entered the employ of the Daily News at that time, did you not?
I did.
And were there until your superannuation.
That's right.
You have a family?
Yes, I've got a girl, Patsy Cox, living down on Latimer Street. He's got 4 of a family, and then my son Dennis. He's in Chilliwack. He's got one boy.
Not Dennis the Menace, just
No,
Dennis.
no, just Dennis Boyd. No menace either.
Well, it's been awfully nice getting you to record your voice for us, John.
Well, Jack, you've operated that ruling machine for quite a long time. Was it during your regime that it was enlarged,
What?
made larger, longer?
The machine?
Yeah.
No,
Oh.
no. The ruling machine was a pretty badly beat up machine when I took it over in 1919, and I rebuilt it and revamped it and put power to it and made improvements to the machine and kept it operating from that on till the time it was out of use. That form in the printing office, the ruled forms become so obsolete, I might say. The offset lithograph took the place of so many ruled forms, machine bookkeeping, that the ruling machine become in time obsolete, and it's been broken up, and I've just disposed of parts of it. Not later than today, I've been throwing away and breaking up odd pieces of it, that it's a thing of the past now.
That's so. I used to feed paper into it for Hamblin. That used
John
to
Hamblin?
work for John Houston in the Old Tribune. And believe me, I'll never forget that experience, because he could swear. He knew more swear words than any man I ever met. And
I'd like to run heat with him.
One time, you know, when John Houston was running for mayor against Fletcher, the surveyor, Fletcher was very bull-legged. So was Hamblin. But I just caught myself in time, because I was very much prejudiced in favor of Houston, of course. And I was just going to say that bull-legged old beggar, and when I thought of myself, and here I was talking to a man that was even more bull-legged.
Well, the old I've seen many changes in the Daily News, and in Nelson, and especially in the Daily News. I came there under the regime of Mr. Frank Payne, who was a real genius in newspaper work and a real fine businessman. I seen it grow from a little small country printing office, little old-fashioned case type, to the fine big printing office that it is today, and it's being well and business-like management under the direction of Mr. Ramson, and he, like everyone else on a new job, had his difficulties and troubles on the start, but he's got the thing rolling smooth now, and it's an honourable institution as always, and we do hope and pray that it always will be an institution that's looked up to as one of the outstanding enterprises in the interior.
I think it has that reputation.
I'm not going to comment on that at the present time. I have differences with him of opinion on a lot of subjects, but thank you, Mr. Boyd, for your interview.
Thank you, Mr. McCandlish.
It's been a pleasure. Well, here we go again, folks. The person I'm going to interview at this time is Edward T. Jackman, one of the real pioneers of the town. Eddie, when did you first come to Nelson?
July 1897.
1897.
I thought it was right close to when I came.
You lived up on Robson Street, did you not?
And this fellow was in my same room at school.
Yes, we were together in school, and we were together in Morrison and Colwell's back room there too for
Yes.
quite a number of times, throwing around sacks of flour and so on.
Where were you born, Ed?
1887, February.
Where?
Iron Mountain, Michigan.
Mountain, Michigan. You're a Michigander.
Yeah.
Well, that's getting close to home. I had an uncle by
Yes.
father's brother who was the first sheriff of Alpena County in Michigan. He took the oath of allegiance to the states when he was 18 years of age and was elected the first sheriff of that county. Like all the good Canucks from the Ottawa River at that time, he was over there working in the big woods. My dad followed the Michigan woods for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, 90% of the top talent they had as lumberjacks in those times all came from across the Canadian side of the border. Now, you've been a resident of Nelson off and on ever since then. You put in several years to the coast, did you not? When did you move from here to the coast?
To where?
To the coast, when you went to the coast?
Oh, the first time, let me see, 1912, I think it was. I can't
You followed the
recollect.
street railways down there, didn't you?
Yes,
BC Electric,
I worked on BC Electric for 2 years, and I came up here in 1914 and started on the cars here.
Yes, I remember that.
And I went back to the coast again in 1918, November. And I come back here, I think it was 1927. I worked on the pole line with Al Pagden, just clearing out the brush, you know, on the North Shore.
That's the City Electric Department.
Yes. And later on, I went relieving the oilers down at the power plant for the holidays. And when I was through with that, I started on the streetcars again and worked there till 1940. Well, just about 6 months before they put the buses on.
Yes. Yes, you were pretty well tied up with the streetcar system here for a long, long time.
Yeah. And then after I was off the cars, I went down the coast during the war and worked for the BC Electric in the car barn in Victoria for a year. I come back here and worked at the 4X as janitor for a while. I don't remember just how long. And after that, I can't. I don't
What did your father do, Ed?
My father was a miner. He worked this.
Well, here we go again, folks. This time I'm going to interview an old friend and an old-timer, Stan Horswell. Where were you born, Stan?
I was born in a town called Rat Portage in the western part of Ontario. That is to say, the part of Ontario that Toronto doesn't know anything about. You know, on the lake, north shore of the Lake of the Woods, 135 miles east of Winnipeg.
Well, I originated a little bit further west in Brandon, Manitoba myself.
Oh, yes. And you remember when the Thistles, Kenora Thistles and the Brandon hockey team used to fight it out.
Oh, yes, I can remember that, reading it in the papers. Of course, I left that part of the country very early. I was only 8 months old when we moved up into Alberta.
Oh, yes.
I've been heading west ever since.
Ever since.
This is as far as I got. When did you come to Nelson first?
1908, July.
July 1908.
Yes.
Classify as an old-timer now.
Oh, yeah.
Could be.
You qualify.
54 years ago.
Well,
Yeah.
I just got you beat 10 years on that.
Oh, lots of people have.
98. Ross has got me beat about 6-8 months.
I don't know whether to sympathize with you people or congratulate you.
Congratulate you.
Okay.
On the nerve we've had in living here that
Yeah,
long.
sure, yes. Not hard to live here. It's a pretty
Not
good place
trying
to
swallow
live,
the
boy.
dictionary to live through all the varying vicissitudes of the town that we have from the time I first struck it in 98 till now requires a lot of, shall we say, intestinal fortitude.
Oh.
But, by the way, and in passing, we all had a lot of fun.
Absolutely. You remember Charlie Waterman, eh? Tom Starkey.
I was just telling, I was just telling somebody a moment ago that I have a
Fred
photograph of Charlie Waterman.
Tom
that I'm very
Proctor.
proud of.
Oh, you have, eh?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
yeah.
used to work for Waterman at one time.
Did you really?
I was his big ballyhoo man. If he'd be selling out a store or anything, I was out on the sidewalk ringing the bell and doing,
Oh, is that a fact?
doing the ballyhooing for him.
Well, well, well.
We used to get away with a half a dozen raw eggs every night so we could keep on talking. Well, Charlie was a souvenir of a peculiar era
That's right.
and a man who left his mark pretty well all over this part of the country.
That's right.
Wherever you
Yes.
find a real old-timer, you'll find somebody that'll reminisce about Charlie Waterman.
Yes, sir, that's
There's
right.
my old boss, John Houston, and him, they were generally fighting. They used to call him Charles Augustus hyphen von der Waterman. You were overseas in the First World War, Stan.
Yes, I consider that as one of the highlights of my experience in this world.
What outfit were you
Joining up and going overseas.
with? What outfit were you with?
I left with the 30th Battalion from Victoria in February 1915, and we were broken up and sent to France as first reinforcements to the 1st Division. I went to the 16th Battalion and I wore the kilt.
16 Canadian Scottish.
16th Canadian Scottish.
They threw you out of that because you had no visible means of support.
That's right.
You're something like me when you wear kilts.
And in that outfit, of course, I served under various commanders, including the original commander, R.G. Edwards Leckie from the coast, his brother Jack Leckie, and Colonel Cy Peck, V.C.,
Yeah.
who later commanded the battalion. Yes, I served under these people, and I'm very proud of it.
You have every right to be. When you came back, shortly after you came back, you entered the Dominion Service, did you not?
I did so, yes. I was the Inspector of Foods and Drugs for the federal government for 26 years, for practically the whole of the interior of British Columbia.
And at the present time, you're in the weights.
No, at the
Measure-
present time I'm retired.
Oh, you're retired. Well, you were in the weights.
No,
Measure-
never anything of that kind. No, no.
I thought
Just
you,
food and drugs inspection.
I thought you had to do with
No.
weigh scales and
No.
testing and all that stuff. Well, that's
No.
my error.
No.
I never knew. Of course, I don't know about the drug part of it, but you could surely specialize on the food end of it. You were an expert on
Well,
that.
I did my job. I think I did my job.
You mean the
yes.
eating part of it? Well, thanks,
Oh,
Stan.
yes.
It's been awfully nice of you to record your voice for us.
Thank you very
And
much,
like
Mac.
I've told the other
It's a pleasure to
candidates
meet you
today,
and see you around
like I've
still.
told the rest of them here today, that if you'll come back in 50 years, we'll play this over for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ross.
You're welcome.
The next old-timer I'm going to interview is Cecil Burgess. Cecil, where were you born?
Leeds, Yorkshire, England.
Oh, you're one of them blinking Yorkies, the lads with the lass with the clogs and the shawl.
Yes, sure.
When did you come to Canada?
1910.
In 1910. Did you come directly to Nelson?
Directly to Nelson, yes,
Well, you showed-
over the Great Northern.
You showed good judgment when you done that, even if you did come in by Jim Hill's railroad.
Hmm. I said when I got here, I said this is a place for me, and I've always made it my headquarters.
Now, what did you do here, mostly?
CPR machinist for a period of about 7 years. And then I tried a stint at farming for about 5 years till I went broke. And I figured it didn't pay to sell eggs at 21 cents a dozen.
I've sold them for
you
less than
quite
that.
understand that. Anyhow, I spent a nice 5 years enjoying myself at Willow Point. That was before the roads were in, you know.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And,
That is when we went up there with an orchestra one year.
mm-hmm.
During
Yes,
that time,
sure.
you're in the picture.
Yeah,
That was at
At the,
At Mills.
Crystal Hall.
yeah.
eh? Oh, Crystal Hall.
that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
In the wintertime.
You were one time a member of the old male voice party here.
I was
Nelson, along
in the
with a
male
couple of my
voice
brothers.
party in 1912 and 13.
Yes. Lou
Yes.
Roberts was the
I'm on
conductor.
the right-hand lower corner in the front row
I have a picture of you
picture.
at home, thank you.
with a big walrus mustache.
Yeah. Horsetail mustache.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
When did you go to trail?
After I'd been after the first war, The CPR sent us to Winnipeg, you see, to make shells.
Yeah.
And then after the war, I came back and farmed for 5 years. Then I went down to trail and got back to my trade.
Yes.
Spent 21 years in the tool room in the big Tadnack machine shop.
Did you succeed Tom Simmons in there?
Yes.
I remember I've checked a lot of tools out of there through Tom
Yes,
Simmons
yes,
myself.
yes, Tommy Simmons, yes.
A wonderful
I'd
mechanic.
forgotten about it.
He was a wonderful mechanic.
Yes, yes. Yes, and I quit there in 1945. And the week that I cleared up, I'd sold probably $250,000 worth of bonds.
Mm-hmm.
I was a sort of a liaison officer between the company and the man, you see, and that gave us a good opportunity to get around and see the men and know the troubles and the worries. It was a great insight into the lives of the men, you know, what they were living.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
And in some cases, I sold bonds to men who couldn't pay their taxes in July, and I bought the bonds back from them so they could pay the taxes, the $50 bonds, you know. I did that, and so that way I made 100% sales in the machine shop. Yeah, I put in, on the last time I put $22,000 in the machine shop for, chalk that up on the board, you know, for the machine shop. That was a good drive. Mm-hmm. That was the 7th drive.
Wow.
I put in every drive. We had a lot of trouble at the start with it, you know, but when we got the right men on the job, we did pretty well. We had a pretty good showing. We made a good record.
Well, they hadn't got that far when I was working there. I worked there during the First War and left there in 18. Went to the mines. Then I went back in 21 and worked there for another 8 or 10 months, and I left it for good. But in those days, the wages were small.
They sure were.
And conditions were pretty rugged.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody could save any money in that town at that time was really a financial wizard.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember when I first went to the CPR, we were getting 48 cents an hour.
Yeah.
And we got board and rooms for $35 in town.
Yeah.
You know, and beef steak was from 18 to 23 cents a pound.
Yes, I can remember that.
And they used to give you the liver. Now they sell it.
Now they sell it for 6 bits a pound.
Well, I had quite a few rather wild experiences. I hit the bottom of the lake about 3 times, I think, in rough water, you know. I used to canoe quite a lot.
Oh, yes.
And one night I came, New Year's Eve, I came to see an opera company in the opera house, and there was a big storm came down Cottonwood Creek, and I was going along on the other side of the lake, you see.
Yeah.
And the wind blew me up onto Fred Hume's beach there.
Yeah, Hume's house.
Yeah, and I lost my paddle, and I couldn't. I had to wait until the storm abated. Well, I found a piece of slab wood and paddled myself as I thought I was going to paddle into Nelson, straight into the wind, you see. But I landed down at the slaughterhouse. And the next morning, the lake was frozen solid. It went down to 0 that night. That was the first sign of winter. Mm-hmm. Hello.
Well, thanks, Cease, for recording your voice for us. And as I have been promising all the folks this afternoon, come back in 50 years and we'll play this record over for you.
Sure, sure.
That's
well, you see, when I retired from the smelter, I came back to Nelson, as I always said I would, and I've been here 16 years now.
Well, it's a good place to retire in.
Oh yes, you can't beat it.
Can't beat it, no place in Canada.
The weather hasn't been so gracious.